Okay, did DEI protocol, did a DEI initiative cause the plane crash in Toronto? Kendal Swanson. They're blaming her for the majority of this crash. They're saying she's a DEI hire. Let's take a look. See here. Okay, 26 years old. She was piloting the plane that ended up upside down. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, certified as an airline transport pilot. Brief career in aviation. She was an instructor pilot for small propeller aircraft and had only recently been licensed to co-pilot a small jet before the crash. And here's her information. This is crazy. Okay. It confirms her ATP certification, but notes that Swanson does not meet the required aeronautical experience to serve as pilot in command. And here's her flight information. It says right here, holder does not meet the pilot in command aeronautical experience. This is from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Let's see. Okay, the plane that crashed in Toronto was a Delta flight operated by Endeavour Air, a small airline obsessed with an all-female unmanned flights. Some users on social platforms have speculated whether Swanson's hiring was influenced by DEI initiatives, though this remains unconfirmed. Yeah, she's gonna fall on this sword. She's gonna be the sacrificial lamb. Yeah, she's gonna be the sacrificial lamb for this. Kendal Swanson, 26. All right, so there it is. There. Are we gonna blame DEI for this this latest crash? It tell you.
In F-18 aboard an aircraft carrier, our average rate of descent is about 800 feet per minute. And I think the last flight tracker data that I saw for this RJ was about 1,100 feet per minute. So that RJ came down a lot faster and harder than I would have landed aboard the boat. And I think, one of the officials yesterday or last night said, hey, crosswind wasn't an issue. Whenever anything like this happens, Megan, I grab my aviation app and I immediately look at the weather, see what the weather is. And landing on runway 23, the winds were out at 270, so about 40 degrees off the nose or down the runway in really gusty conditions. So it looks like this airplane didn't really have too much of a flare, which is when you get close into the runway, we pull the nose back, pull back on the throttles and kind of do that nice, what we as Navy pilots would say, Air Force landing. But this landing was hard and it looks like it sheared off the right main landing gear, took the wing with it. And then the only wing that was left, the left wing, still producing lift, they kind of corkscrew and roll down the runway. But my God, we jokingly in aviation say any landing we can walk away from is a good landing. That was a pretty bad landing. And thank God a lot of people walked away.
Those regional pilots are not quite as trained as the, big old American Airlines jet pilots that we have on the, DC-10s or 747s that we fly.
Well, let me rephrase that or clean that up a little bit. They're certainly trained, right? The FAA has standards. You have to meet these minimum standards. Endeavour Air has standards. So clearly, those two aviators sitting in front of that regional jet had met the standards, the minimum standards. I think what the nuance is experience. That's probably, I'll clean it up by saying experience. Mm-hmm. Not to talk down to any folks in the regional jet. I wasn't born the world's best fighter pilot, or actually I was. But you're not born. You're not born with thousands and thousands of flight hours, right? You got to get your hours somewhere. So a lot of the folks in the regionals are doing their time, right? They're building their hours. I don't know too many folks who make flying in the regionals a career. They want to fleet up, so to speak, to the main line, to Delta, United, FedEx, where the big money is. So a lot of these regional jet crews are overworked and definitely underpaid, in my opinion. But they have got to meet the minimum requirements.
Like, would you fly as a passenger on a regional jet?
I would, Megan. I mean, the fact that all of these, before we jumped on the air, Greg and I were talking about, last week we lost a Growler, an E-18 crash. We had an F-35 crash in Eielson Air Force Base weeks ago, and then we've had all these other mishaps. If these were spread out over the fiscal year or the calendar year, they'd be blips on the news media radar for a little bit. But the fact that we're kind of squished into a month here, everybody's freaking out. I get it. But as you know, intuitively, driving to or from the airport is the most, dangerous part of this exercise.